Tonight, as you all know, our very special guest is Lloyd Robertson. His face and voice are familiar to millions of Canadians through his long career as anchor with CTV News, and before that as anchor with The National on CBC Television. And now he has a new title, author. I'm delighted to see Lloyd once again. We actually met, truth be told, for the first time in 1975. This is 37 years ago. When I was a journalism student at Carleton, Lloyd was invited to speak to the school about broadcasting and spoke very well. After that, we students put our names into a hat, and 5 names were pulled out, and those lucky 5 got to read and record a newscast that Lloyd then listened to and critiqued. I was lucky enough to be one of those 5, and I still remember the feedback, the very useful information that he gave me about my performance. Now at this point, my charming story turns downright embarrassing, but not for Lloyd, I hasten to add. It turns out that a very attractive student was sitting next to me at this session. She chatted with me beforehand and at one point asked to borrow my pen. At least that's what she told me after the session, because I have no memory whatsoever that she sat next to me or that we chatted. And as she told me later, you only had eyes for Lloyd. I'm pleased to report that I eventually did come to my senses and did ask her out, and a couple of years after that, did propose, and we've now been married for 34 years. Lloyd is a member of the Order of Canada and the first journalist ever inducted into Canada's Walk of Fame. Readers of TV Guide voted him Canada's most trusted news anchor 11 times in a row. Not bad. Please welcome Lloyd Robertson.
This next story happened when I was in Guelph. I was doing a morning show, and one morning I seriously overslept. I was to sign on at 5:45. I raced into the station at 7 o'clock, got on the air by 7:05, threw on a record, dropped all the phones in the wastepaper basket because they were ringing off the hook, and I dropped the needle halfway through on the record. It was Pretty Baby by Doris Day. I remember it to this day. When the record ended, I said, it's 8 minutes after 7, good morning everybody, the weather's fine today. People would think something was just wrong with their radios, right? Not so. The program director knew this old game. This was part of radio lore in those days, and I thought I was pulling it off. Well, I didn't. He came in and he said, you tried to make a sign on this morning, didn't you? A very serious matter. He marched me into the front office when I was set to face the wrath with the station manager, Fred Metcalf, and CJ owner Wally Slatter. Metcalf was furious and proclaimed, I think we have to order you to pack up your things and get out of here. I was shaking. Fred and Wally, at this point, Wally intervened and he said, look guys, I hated those early calls during the war years. This was 1953. I know how tough it is on that shift. Lloyd, you have one more chance. So the lesson from that is never try to bluff your audience. When I was in Guelph, I got up the nerve to come to the CBC in Toronto and take an audition. And it was the first time I'd ever been, well, I'd been to Toronto once or twice, but the first time I'd ever really seen it, walking from Bay Street, up the storied Jarvis Street, to the CBC building, which was an old girls' school. And there's a moral in the story, too. It was only my second or third visit to the city, as I say. I had to walk the 3 or 4 blocks to the bus, from the bus depot to the radio studios. To me, Toronto was not just big, it was big and exciting, with a rhythmic hustle and a cornucopia of visual delights and exotic enterprise. While I considered myself somewhat worldly, despite not having been outside small-town Ontario, I was taken aback by the brazen nature of my first encounter with one of the city's working girls. Walking up Jarvis Street to my appointment in the middle of the afternoon, I was approached by a perky, attractive brunette who was wearing a tight, low-cut sweater that displayed her ample attributes and genes she had been poured into. She offered a variety of sexual services on a graduated economic scale and seemed willing to bargain because I looked like an unscattered. Aware of the importance of my appointment and imagining the echoes of my father's voice warning of the perils of loose women, I stammered something about not being able to participate right then, but might see her on the way back. It was a dog she recognized, but she was very pleasant and told me to be sure to tell her when I got back about my important business of the day. I didn't run into her again. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. I wanted to go out and talk if I could, because my heroes were always the people who left at the peak. One of my political heroes, Frank McKenna, who won 2 majority governments in New Brunswick and went out with style. Wayne Gretzky, John Elway from the Denver Broncos, who won 2 Super Bowls and then quit. It's that kind of thing that I wanted to be able to do. And as someone was telling the story the other day of Joe DiMaggio, who said, I always want to be, I'm leaving now because I want to be remembered as Joe DiMaggio.
And that's the kind of day it's been for the Ottawa Writers Festival. I'm Lloyd Robertson. Good night.